This video is on certificates of deposits. This is commonly known as a CD. So, what exactly is a CD? A CD, for all intents and purposes, is a loan, but it's sort of the opposite of the types of loans you usually think about. A CD is you actually lending money to a bank or credit union for a specific amount of time. Once again, we'll talk about what a credit union is in a different video. So let's go over some of the vocabulary associated with CDs. Principal. Principal is the amount of money that you are actually lending the bank. The way you lend the bank money is in the buying of the CD. That amount of money that you buy the CD for all intents and purposes, you are lending the bank that amount of money for the duration. And how long you are lending that money to the bank for is called the term. At the end of the term, which is called the maturity date is the day that the bank needs to give you back your money. So at the end of that term, at the maturity date, the bank is supposed to give you back your money or your principal. In between when you buy the CD and when they give you back your money, uh, there is an interest rate associated with that CD. And the interest rate is just the percent of your principal, the percent of the amount of money that you lent them, that they have to pay you each year. That money that they actually pay you is called the interest. And the interest is the amount of money that you lend them times the interest rate. And that's how much interest you will get each year. Your interest rate, it can be fixed or it could be variable. A fixed interest rate means that you have the exact same interest rate from the beginning of the CD all the way to the maturity date, all the way to the very end. A variable rate means that this interest rate will change or can change during the course of the loan depending on something else. A common something else it might depend on would be inflation. There are many CDs where if inflation goes up, the interest rate that they will pay you will also go up. If inflation goes down, then they will pay you a lower interest rate. So, how does this work? How does the whole CD process work? Well, step one, it starts off with you buying a CD. So, you go to a bank or go to a bank's website and you will purchase a CD from them for a certain amount of money, X dollars. Once again, that X dollars you're purchasing the CD for is the principal or the amount of money you are lending them. And at the time that you purchase the CD, the duration of the loan or the term is determined at that point. And the interest rate is also determined at the time at which you buy the CD. And that interest rate is typically fixed for the whole time that you have lent them the money. So if at the beginning of when you first buy the CD, if they're paying you 5% per year, at the end of the CD, they should still be paying you 5% per year. That's typically how most CDs are. Okay, so after you buy the CD from them, the bank will then pay you interest every blank number of months. And the most common is that they either pay you interest once a month, like a savings account, or that they'll pay you once a quarter or once every 3 months. Those are the most common intervals at which they pay you money. And finally, at the end of the uh, length of the CD, at the maturity date, the bank will then give you back the money that you loaned them or give you back your principal. So I've been talking about them lending you money for, or you lending them money for a specific amount of time or a term. So the most common terms or common durations for a CD are 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. Or if we're thinking about years, it's 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, etc. These are just the most common durations. There are some CDs that have different durations than these. There are some CDs that say might have a 5 month duration or a 7 month duration or a 21-month duration, but these are the most common ones. Another important aspect of your CD is the interest rate which you are getting. In general, not just for CDs, but for all sorts of investments, the more risk, the higher the interest rate. So, because this is generally true, if you lend the bank the money for a longer duration or for a longer period of time, that usually increases your risk. Because it increases your risk, you end up getting a higher interest rate for lending them the money for a longer term. In addition, in general, if you lend the bank more money, a larger amount, you sometimes will be able to earn a higher interest rate. This is actually not always true, or the ceiling for this is not super, super high. Let's look at interest rates over time. So here is a graph of interest rates or average interest rates from 1984 to 2020. The dark blue line is the 5-year CD or the interest rate for the 5-year CD. The green line is the interest rate for the 1-year CD, and the light blue line is the interest rate for the 6-month CD. So there are some common things we can see here. Number one, the 5-year CD usually earns the highest interest, and then the 1-year CD earns more interest than the 6-month CD. And this goes back to what we were just talking about. Lending them money for 5 years is considered more risky for you, so you end up earning a higher interest rate. Another thing that is apparent from this graph is over time, over the last 35 years or so, the average interest rates for all of them have been going down. Back in the late 1980s, you could earn double digits interest rates, and that is just not true anymore. Okay, so far I've been talking about you lending the money to the bank for a specific duration or specific amount of time, but you can actually withdraw the money early. And by early here, I'm talking about before the maturity date. However, if you withdraw the money early before that maturity date, the bank does charge you a fee to do that. All right, so let's start summarizing all this information. What are the benefits or the pros for having CD? Well, CDs earn a higher interest rate than checking accounts, savings accounts, or money market accounts. In addition, CDs are safer than stocks. And the reason we consider CDs to be safer is because the rate of return, the interest rate you get, is guaranteed for CDs, but is not guaranteed for stocks. So we say that CDs are safer than stocks, and they earn higher interest rate than these other types of accounts here. And also, CDs are FDIC insured up to this amount per account per person. So even if the bank you're lending this money to goes out of business, the government has insurance on that money, and the government will pay you back whatever money that you lent the bank. So those are the benefits or the pros. What exactly are the cons or the drawbacks or the bad things about CDs? Well, number one, although the interest rates are higher than checking accounts, savings accounts, and money market accounts, interest rates for CDs, even the very best CDs, are still only about equal to inflation. And many times they're lower than inflation, even. So this means that you are lending the bank money, and at the end, even after they've paid you back, you're actually not able to buy more things with that money than at the very beginning of the loan. Your purchasing power has not increased. And that's because although the amount of money you have is increasing because they're giving you interest, that interest rate is only about equal to inflation or maybe even lower than inflation. So the price of things have been going up at least as fast or faster than the money in the CD. So you lend them money and your purchasing power hasn't even gone up over time. Second biggest drawback about CDs is that you lock in your money for the duration of the CD. And yes, you can get the money early, but there's that penalty. There's that fee you pay. So, given the benefits and the drawbacks, how are CDs in real life used? So, money that you need to use relatively soon, that month, say, usually go into your checking account. Money that you don't need right away might go into your savings account if you're not exactly sure when you might need that money. If you have extra money beyond that, where you're like, this chunk of money, I don't think I'm going to need it for the next 6 months, or I'm not going to need this money for the next year, but in a year I'm going to need this money. You might put that money into a CD where you have this extra money you don't need in the very short term, but you don't want to risk it in the stock market because let's say you really need that money in a year. So in that case, you can put it in a CD where it will earn a higher interest than your savings account, but it won't carry the risk of you losing that money the way investing in stocks would. Another way that people use CDs is that since CDs are less risky than stocks, if someone has a bunch of stocks and other risky investment and they decide they want to decrease the risk of all their investments combined, they can move some of that money from these more risky investments to CDs. And by doing that, they decrease the overall riskiness of their portfolio of investments or of their investments in total. Also, another very common way that CDs are used are by older people as they start getting closer and closer to retirement. As they get closer and closer to retirement, many retirees want to guarantee that a certain portion of their money is definitely going to be there at certain times. So they might move, say, the amount of money that they need for the next 3 years into CDs. And by putting that money into CDs, it is basically guaranteed that at the maturity date, the bank will pay you back that money that you need. One final little thing about CDs I want to mention, it is a bit of a warning from me. A lot of CDs have this rollover or reinvestment feature. And what this feature basically does is at the end of your term, the money you lent the bank is automatically used to buy another CD like the one that you had previously. And this is a automatic feature that is turned on unless, and the buying of the other CD is automatic unless you tell them otherwise. Typically what happens is a few months before the maturity date, your bank will send you something saying on so and so date, your CD is going to mature. Would you like us to deposit it into your bank account, write you a check, or just roll over the principal into another CD? If you do nothing, they will automatically use that money to buy another CD. And this is the reason this is their automatic feature is because this is to the benefit of the bank. So that's my sort of one big warning about CDs, which I think many people wouldn't have thought about. Though you can, as long as you reply to their letter or you tell them not to roll over the CD and to just give you your money, this shouldn't be a problem.